Good afternoon. Convening our joint hearing on the Committees on Health and Homelessness and the Committee on Consumer Protection and Commerce. So wonderful to be here with my colleagues and particularly our co-committee. We're here and it's Tuesday, February 13, 2024, 2 o'clock p.m. in conference room 329. If we have anyone participating via Zoom, which I don't think, but in case we do, please connect with our technical assistants if you need that help. If we lose power, we will adjourn and then reconvene as needed. Members, we have one short bill on our joint agenda. So first up is House Bill 1591 relating to micro enterprise kitchens. And first up, we have testimony in opposition from Department of Health.
Hi, good afternoon, Chairs Biladi and Nakashima, members of the Joint Committee. Really good to see you all. I was reminded not to use the word old, so I was going to say it was great to see all my old friends out here, but it's great to see my experienced friends out here. We rise in opposition of this bill. My name is Peter Oshiro. I'm the Program Manager for the Department of Health's Food Safety Branch. In 2014, the department amended our food rules to allow a robust homemade food industry to operate in Hawaii that allows foods that do not require temperature controls for safety or non-potentially hazardous foods to be made in a home and sold directly to consumers. These are classified as homemade food operations in Hawaii administrative rules. These foods are already required to be labeled properly, indicating that they are not made in the DOH-inspected facility. The operators of these homemade food operations are also required by law to have a basic food handler certificate issued by the Department of Health or various third-party vendors that are ANSI accredited. So I'm not going to go through my whole testimony, but a recent study from the Journal of Food Protection had to do with home kitchens. So swab samples were collected from food contact and food surfaces. The samples were tested for fecal coliforms, E. coli, staph, salmonella, campylobacter, and listeria. Fecal coliforms were found in 44% of homes, and E. coli was present in 15% of these homes. Nearly half, about 45% of the homes had tested positive for a foodborne pathogen, and 12% had multiple pathogens present in the kitchen. Contamination with listeria was significantly associated with higher refrigeration temperatures. This is a serious problem in Hawaii. When was the last time you checked your refrigerator to make sure it was below 41 degrees? That's all I'm saying. And again, if you don't have these controls over the food products that you're in, there's a good chance that you're going to put your consumers at undue risk of contracting foodborne illnesses that may result in serious illness, hospitalizations, and even death. Thank you. I'll be available for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Oshiro. In support, Grassroots Institute of Hawaii. In support, Hawaii Food Plus Policy, Purple Maya Foundation. In support. Keone Shizuma in support. We have late testimony from Maui Chamber of Commerce in support. Any other testifiers in the room? Any other testifiers via Zoom? Seeing none. Members' questions? Go ahead.
Hi, thanks for being with us today.
Hi, afternoon.
Hi. So, in the rules, so we know that these smaller scale operations who might not be at the level where they where they can afford, or they're not making the volume that would be in a commercial kitchen, we know they are kind of operating already, though, right?
You know,
Otherwise,
we have received some complaints about it. And again, this is one of the most difficult complaints to go because we have to catch somebody in the act, and we do not stake out private residential homes to see if they're selling food to the public. We just don't have the resources to do that.
And
so as far as how many of them are operating, I do not know. And if they are, they're operating illegally. But we do shut down so if the neighbor complains, they got a sign outside the house saying they're selling tacos. We'll send somebody else and give them a notice to cease and desist.
But then if we pass this law, then we would be able to, these people who are doing these operations would register with you guys, and you guys would know where they are and at least have some kind of control or a way for them to kind of let Department of Health know where they're operating and what they're doing?
You know, that'd be okay, but the whole department's philosophy, especially my program, is to prevent foodborne illnesses, not to wait till some people get sick or end up in a hospital, and we have to chase the illness from behind and figure out what caused it. So that's why we're such objection to this. If you go to any other permitted establishment, they're wide open for inspection. We actually can control their environment. You cannot control how people live. You just cannot do
sure,
it.
but yeah, I guess my point would be, this would let the businesses that are operating under the radar, and we don't know where they are, at least they'd be registering with you guys, and we would know who they were and what they were doing.
You know, if people are going to skirt the law now, I don't see why they would comply with this law. Anyway, so
Thank you.
thanks.
Go ahead, Rep. Martin.
Sorry, one more question. Thank you so much.
No problem.
So I've always wondered, food trucks obviously go through the permitting process and are inspected by you folks. I would
Yes.
think that it is easier to maintain hygiene in a home setting versus a food truck with running water. What is, like, how could they not at least meet the same standards as a
All
food truck?
food trucks are required to have running water. So they meet the same standard as a restaurant. They're inspected at the same frequency as a restaurant, depending on the type of foods they make. So again, there's no way you can compare that to a home kitchen. I mean, I'm not going to make any comments about how people live, but you can imagine, go watch the TV show Hoarders. I mean, I'm not making a joke, but we do not control how people live. What we see in controlled permitted establishments might just shock you. What you'll see in someone's home kitchen, I think your jaw's going to drop. And I don't see how they're going to pass inspection if we're not allowed to look at anything, which this rule probably kind of alludes to, that we can make rules, but we can't look at things that affect public health.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Chair.
Any other questions? Representative Kobayashi.
Hi. So you're saying that you already have a robust homemade food industry operating, but you do not allow foods that require temperature controls for safety. Is that it?
That's correct.
So where does this bill differ from what you already have in operation?
The reason why we allow what we allow presently is foods that are not temperature controlled for safety do not transmit pathogenic bacteria. So that's why nationwide we have reports of no illnesses from people making chocolate chip cookies, breads, Rice Krispie snacks out of their home kitchens.
sorry.
So it's a big difference in if you're going to allow someone to make pork, chicken, poultry out of a home kitchen, that's where pathogenic bacteria is going to cause a major, major issue.
So what's the difference between what you currently have in practice and this bill?
This bill will allow will allow basically food of any type to be sold.
I see, including temperature-controlled foods.
Yes, that's what this bill is asking.
I see. Why do you have, I'm sorry, go ahead. I withdraw, thank you.
Questions from CPC?
Representative Nishi, go ahead.
Yes. Thank you, Peter, for being here. I have a question. It says here, the department shall adopt rules pursuant to Chapter 91 to establish sanitation equipment and maintenance requirements for micro-enterprise home kitchens. Does Chapter 91 also allow you to specify liability requirements, liability insurance?
You know, none of our rules, the Department of Health rules, food safety rules, have anything to do with requiring liability insurance. I don't know if anything would prevent that, but our current rules do not address liability at all.
Okay.
That's a business practice that we leave up to the businesses.
For those states that have allowed this type of enterprises, do you know if there's been any suits against the state for allowing this to happen?
Right now, if you're familiar with food freedom laws basically are the philosophy that you can do anything you want with no government intervention. That's what this bill is, for me, it seems to be asking for. Montana was one of the early states that passed food freedom laws, which means no government regulations on food sold from private homes at all. And they are currently being sued because the government has a responsibility to protect those who cannot protect themselves. So it's being looked at that government may be shirking its responsibility if they allow, knowing that foodborne illnesses come from these types of operations, to go allow it unfettered with no control.
So currently, with your approved facilities, restaurants, food trucks, producers, manufacturers that manufacture food, If there is an incident, generally, is the state liable?
Generally not, and I'm not an attorney, so I don't want to talk to that. But Bill Marler is one of the more famous food attorneys around, liability attorneys. And basically, the last person that prepares the food and gives it over, if that food is known to be the cause of the illness, pretty much liability rests on that person. Yeah, I don't know if government has ever been held liable specifically because of their lack of regulations.
Okay, and finally, Chair, so it says that you can adopt rules pursuant to sanitation, equipment, maintenance, etc. But there's also exemptions in this bill for some of these functions.
Yeah, the exemptions frighten me because they basically asked us to make rules, but I'm just going to say that we won't be able to because to protect public health, because the things that are exempted is hand washing facilities, sanitizing equipment, utensils. If you're going to serve a cup to a stranger, he's going to put it in his mouth. Now you're going to take it and serve it to somebody else. You better be able to sanitize and disinfect that cup properly. That's what you guys all do at restaurants. All restaurants are required to disinfect that fork that went into somebody else's mouth before it goes into yours. This says we can't regulate that in the rule. So it's just, I don't know, it's very incongruent. The things that are exempted are the things that we would put in our rules.
Okay. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any more questions? Any more questions? Representative Purick, and then I will ask my questions. Go ahead.
Thank you for testifying.
Oh, no problem.
So you mentioned a TLC program called Hoarders, and that's that's a very small population that hoard things.
Yes.
My mom made this for me, and it was from a private kitchen, and I'm not concerned about it because I know how clean she is. There's tons of people that are clean in our state.
Yes.
What can you say to combat the idea that that this is a fear-based decision of, can't trust people? I mean, all of us are probably eating lunches today, not all of us, some of us, from home, so.
Our whole rules and the FDA model food code is based on reducing risk. It's not based on fear-mongering. We know the exact things over the last 20 or 30 years that actually make people sick and cause foodborne illnesses, and those are reflected in our inspections as critical items. That red, yellow, green placard program is not based on fear-mongering. It's based on reducing risk, and that's all that is. Right? So again, if you're asking us to gauge risk in a private home, I'm going to say that's nearly impossible because people that we inspect currently have issues with keeping their kitchen clean. I have no doubt that your mom keeps their kitchen clean as my mom. So again, that's not the issue here. The issue here is people need to make money. People are going to do this for the mighty dollar again, and that will probably in our society today take precedence over everything else.
Thank you.
That's just been what I've noticed if we don't have regulation.
Okay, Mr. Sherrill, my question. So this is a new topic to me. I know about the other homemade food operations that we have done before, but this is kind of a different area. So I actually looked up the Alameda County Department of Environmental Health requirements. And the only 3 things that really seem different from this and as opposed to what's in the bill is that Alameda requires an approved food safety manager certification, an approved food handler card, and then that the permit holder shall notify the department if a person is experiencing symptoms of gastrointestinal illness or diagnosed with an illness that can be transmitted by food or by a food handler. So I imagine that's going to be some kind of self-reporting if someone in the enterprise has any of those things. So if these 3 elements are built into this law and baked into this law, I mean, you already said that we have a food handler certificate program.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
How long is that program?
That was introduced in 2017. So we introduced the placard program in 2014. And the second piece of our so-called goals was to get mandatory education for industry. We decided to settle on mandatory food handlers education versus the managerial level certification because of the high population of ESL business owners here. The food handlers education is designed for entry-level workers around the 6th grade education level that can pass the test and understand what we're looking at as a food worker. The manager certification course requires a bit of post-high school understanding. It's going to cover bacteriology, microbiology, applied physical science as far as temperature controls. And these are the things that have to be, it's a 2-day class. We don't currently offer it, but that is offered by FDA ANSI certified instructors. And I think you can get that online.
And these are 2-day classes online?
Yeah, typically those are 2-day classes online, but I'll check to make sure that that's
Okay.
available.
So if we added those two things and this element of having the permit holder self-report, if someone in the enterprise is experiencing these issues, then we would be in alignment with other states, basically.
With one county, and you have to understand that in the United States, most food regulations are made by the counties, not by the states. So the state might pass a law, but Alameda County, San Francisco, LA, they all have different rules. They all have different levels of, I guess, political willingness to adopt new things or not. And so it's kind of hard to compare these two.
Okay, but without these things, then the law doesn't have at least these protections.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Members, any other questions? Chair, I think we can take the vote, but I don't want to waste any time. So if you want to move on with the rest of your agenda, and when we have quorum, we can go ahead with voting. Is that okay?
That works for you.
So we'll wait for quorum to be, and then we can take a vote. So move on to the next one.
Okay. So just move into.
Members, if you guys can just be patient, and we'll just wait. Thank you.
Okay, we'll be moving into the 2:05 PM agenda for the House Committee on Consumer Protection and Commerce. Do we have to recess?
Yeah, we need to.
Wait, do we have quorum? Do we have quorum on your side?
No.
4, 5. We need one more.
You have Therese.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we have
We
quorum.
have to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do have quorum. Here, Chair, can we go ahead and vote?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Chair's recommendation is to move House Bill 1591 forward with a House Draft 1, technical amendments and adding requirements that I don't know if it's called a certificate holder or persons engaging in micro enterprise home kitchens to obtain an approved food safety manager certification and approved food handler certification, as well as self-report or report to the department if a person within the enterprise is experiencing symptoms of gastrointestinal illness or diagnosed with an illness that can be transmitted by food or by a food handler. Members, this should address some of the kind of concerns raised by Department of Health and a defective date of 3,000. Members, any questions, comments, or concerns?
I think I'm WR.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough,
Especially if we have something already on the books.
fair enough.
Few years.
Understood. Again, members, this has to go through the process, so that's Chair's recommendation. We'll take the vote on the health side.
Health Committee voting on HB 1591. Chair's recommendation is passed with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Representative Amato? Aye. Representative Iligan? Aye. Representative Kobayashi, reservations?
Reservations.
Representative Martin, reservations? Representative Nishimoto? Aye. Representative Garcia? Chair, recommendations adopted.
Chair?
Committee on Consumer Protection and Commerce, same recommendation. Members, any questions, comments? Representative Onishi.
Yeah, Chair, based on the Department of Health's testimony, besides the fact that I think that we are going to be exposing the general public to greater threat from businesses that do not provide ample care to the food that they produce. And also the testimony, in their testimony, they talked about the ability to actually go to somebody's house and inspect on a random basis, and needing to get approval by that owner to even enter their homes, and then putting into jeopardy possibly their inspectors going into, like a female inspector going into somebody's private home, or even a male inspector, and having to maybe shut them down and stuff, and then being either assaulted or accused of stuff that may not have occurred in that home, and there's no protection for these state employees. These are all very troubling to me, and so with that being said, I have to vote no on this bill. I don't think it makes any sense for the state to do this. Thank you.
Thank you, members. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, Vice Chair, recommend approval.
Voting on HB 1591, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Representative Amato? Aye. Representative Belatti?
Aye.
Representative Hashem? Representative Halsey-Bredick? Excused. Representative Gates? Excused. Representative Lowen? Excused. Representative Onishi? No. Representative Tam?
Reservations.
Representative Pierick? Thank you, Chair. Your recommendation is adopted.
We're adjourned. Thank you, Chair.
Calling to order the House Committee on Consumer Protection and Commerce for the 2:05 p.m. agenda. It is Tuesday, February 13th, 2024. We're in conference room 329. For today, we'll be limiting testimony to 2 minutes. Please kindly come to the podium to state your remarks for your testimony. For those who are on Zoom, please keep your mics muted and your videos off until it is your turn to testify. If you do have technical issues, please use the chat function to contact our technical support. With that, first on the agenda, we have HB 1578, HD1 relating to transportation. First to testify, we have Ed Sniffen from the Department of Transportation in support.
Chair, Vice Chair, members, Ed Sniffen from Hawaii DOT, standing in support.
Thank you. Next, we have Tina Yamaki from Retail Merchants of Hawaii in support. Not present. Okay, moving on, we have Melissa Pavlicek from the Hawaii Harbors Users Group in support. Thank you. Are there other persons here to testify on this measure? Okay, seeing none, members, we do have written testimony in support from Matson's Navigations Company as well as Young Brothers. Members, are there any questions? Seeing none, we'll be moving on to the next item on the agenda, HB 1997, HD1 relating to inter-island transport of hydrogen. First to testify, we have Michael Angelo from DCCA, Division of Consumer Advocacy, with comments.
Chair, Vice Chair, member of the committee, Mickey Knox for the Division of Consumer Advocacy. We stand on our written comments.
Thank you. Next, we have Hawaii State Energy Office with comments.
Aloha, we stand on our written testimony with comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have David Molinaro from the Hawaii Center for Advanced Transportation Technologies in support. On Zoom? Okay, not here. Are there any other persons here to testify on this measure? Oh, please go ahead. Oh, yes.
I apologize. Aloha, good afternoon. Chair Nakashima, Vice Chair Sayama, and the Committee on Consumer Protection and Commerce. My name is Andrew Okabe. I'm a utility analyst for the Public Utilities Commission. On behalf of Chair Leo Senchin of the Public Utilities Commission, we stand on written testimony offering comment on HB 1997. We're available for any questions that you may have for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other persons here to testify on this measure? Seeing none, members, any questions? Okay. Seeing none, we'll be moving on to the next item, HB 2517 HD1 relating to new renewable energy. First to testify on this measure, we have Hawaii State Energy Office in support.
Aloha, Maria Tomei with the Hawaii State Energy Office. We stand on our written testimony in strong support. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Greg Shimokawa from the Hawaiian Electric in support.
Afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Greg Shimokawa for Hawaiian Electric, in support of this panel written testimony. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Nicola Park from Clearway Energy Group in support on Zoom.
Aloha, Chair Nakashima, Vice Chair Sayama, members of the committee. I'm Nicola Park, Director of Hawaii for Clearway Energy Group, here to express our strong support for this bill. We stand on our written testimony and happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other persons here to testify on this measure? Seeing none, members, we do have written testimony in support from the City and County of Honolulu, County of Hawaii, Lupono Initiative, Long Road Energy, Hawaii Solar Energy Association, as well as Pacific Biodiesel Technologies. Members, are there any questions? Seeing none, we'll be moving on to HB 1993 HD1 relating to beverage containers. First to testify on this measure, we have Environmental Health Administration from the Department of Health with comments.
Hi, Chair Nakashima, Vice Chair Sayama, Leno Tue, Department of Health. We stand on our written testimony providing comments on the measure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Lauren Zerbel from the Hawaii Food Industry Association with comments.
Thank you, Chair and committee members. Lauren Zorbel on behalf of Hawaii Food Industry Association. We provided comments. We just wanted to underscore that we think it's important to understand that most retailers do not control the space in which they operate. Landlords have strict rules about what types of behaviors are allowed on their property, and in many cases, landlords do not sanction the collection of waste, including recyclables, in large quantities outside of the premise of retail locations. Retail businesses that supply their communities with beverages in the high-fiber recyclable containers, that collection was not identified in the pretty extensive audit report about how to improve that system. So we would like to recommend that we use that audit as our source of information about how to improve the program going forward, and not necessarily remove the distance exemption. Thank you very much for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Are there any other persons here to testify on this measure? Seeing none, members, we do have written testimony in support from Wild Kids Hawaii. Members, any questions? Representative Onishi.
Yeah, for Department of Health. So the auditor's report, was that done for the department? Does the department manages this program?
Yes, Department of Health operates the deposit beverage container
Right.
program.
So the auditor's report was done in
We're
regard.
audited every other year by the auditor, and on the off years, we're actually technically audited every year. So every other year is in statute for DBC program, and on the off years, we participate in the department-wide audit.
What was the auditor's analysis of the redemption program?
Well, they
In general,
identified.
in general.
Well, they identified multiple weaknesses, and so those are things that we've been starting to address over the last couple of years. But as far as
Well,
overall,
redemption level.
Redemption level?
Was that
They weren't
identified?
I don't think they commented on redemption level. You mean as far as like making recommendations on like level of convenience for redemption centers, that type of thing?
Or, I mean, I would assume that we're trying to shoot for 100% redemption. I mean,
As high
that
as
would be the goal,
redemption as possible.
right?
Mhm.
So the auditors didn't have any comments in regards to our current level or current percentage of redemption.
No, their comments were directed more towards controlling for fraud, for example, on the distributor and retailer level, and also on the redemption side too. But nothing directly on redemption rate per se.
So for them, redemption rate was not an issue. And how does this bill address the auditor's concerns?
Well, this is not an admin bill. Yeah, so.
Well,
I
but
mean,
do you guys feel like this addresses the auditor's issues?
well, we understand that aiming to increase redemption services to the public to then increase the redemption rate. And
So was
that's
that
how
an
we're
issue
addressing.
that the auditor identified?
No.
So it wasn't in the auditor's report that we needed to increase redemption accessibility?
Yeah, well, not directly, not like the most recent items that we've been trying to address.
Okay, so this isn't an admin bill, this wasn't identified as a need by the auditor in regards to the program per
No.
se?
Yeah, it's not an admin bill.
Okay, okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Members, any further questions? Seeing none, we'll be moving on to the next agenda item, HB 1648, relating to school psychology. First to testify on this measure, we have Christopher Fernandez from the Board of Psychology in support.
Good afternoon, Chair and Vice Chair and members of the committee. My name is Christopher Fernandez, Executive Officer for the Board of Psychology. The board supports the intent of this bill and offers comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Alec Marentic, individual in support on Zoom.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Thank you for this opportunity to testify. My name is Alec Marentic. I am a school psychologist for the KKP complex area on Hawaii Island, and I am also the legislative committee chair for the Hawaii Association of School Psychologists. I want to be very clear and transparent with the committee that when we're talking about consumer protection with this bill, we are talking about the consumer protection for our keiki. School psychology has been recognized as a specialty area of psychology since 1998, meaning that there are specific training requirements that individuals must go through to meet minimum standards necessary to perform that task effectively. While it might have overlap with, for example, clinical psychology, some of the specific training that we get around school-based issues, education law, special education law, et cetera, are things that are unique and specific to our program. We also get specific training in crisis prevention and intervention specifically related to school systems. And a couple of things I just want to note as far as precedent goes for the original version of this bill. It is aligned to the nationally recognized statutory language around the credentialing of school psychologists, as well as there are a number of other states, including New Hampshire, Louisiana, Virginia, and West Virginia, that have education specialist level credentialing for school psychologists that are administered by the state's Board of Psychology. Thank you for this opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Are there any other persons here to testify on this measure? Seeing none, we do have written testimony in support from the Department of Education, Hawaii Association for School Psychologists, Hawaii Children's Action Network Speaks, Hawaii Psychological Association, and 2 individuals also in support. Members, are there any questions? Seeing none, we'll be moving on to the next measure, HB 2176 HD1. This is relating to artificial intelligence. First to testify on this measure, we have Doug Murdoch from the Hawaii Office of Enterprise Technology Services in support.
Hi, Chair, Vice Chair, and the members of committee. I'm Rebecca Kai, the Chief Data Officer, representing CIO Doug Murdoch and ETS. We stand on our written testimony. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other persons here to testify on this measure? Okay, seeing none, members, we do have written testimony from DCCA with comments and Department of Human Services with comments. Members, any questions? Seeing none, we'll be moving on to the next item in the agenda, HB 1944 HD1 relating to workers' compensation. First to testify on this measure, we have Jade Batai from the Hawaii Department of Labor and Industrial Relations in support.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, and members. Joanne Videnhar from the Department of Labor. Stand on our testimony in support. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Allison Ueoka from the Hawaii Insurers Council in support.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Allison Ueoka for Hawaii Insurers Council. Will stand on our testimony in strong support. Thank you.
Thank you. Finally, we have Kathy Wilson, individual in support. Okay, not here. So, are there any other persons here to testify on this measure? Okay, seeing none, members, we do have written testimony in support from the Hawaii Medical Evaluators, World Star Injury Recovery Center, Hawaii Injury Recovery Center, Work Injury Medical Association of Hawaii, and 3 individuals. Members, any questions? Seeing none, we'll be moving on to HB 2444 HD1 relating to criminal history records checks. First to testify, we have Department of Health in support.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chairs, members. My name is Greg Edwards, at Department of Health, Office of Medical Cannabis Control and Regulation. Offer testimony in support. Just a key point here is that this is necessary to follow through on last year's legislation that requires applicants to the hemp processor permit system to submit to consent to a background check. This is necessary. Now it's necessary for us to do that background check, but we can't until the necessary statute 846 2.7 is properly amended, allowing us access to that database. I'd also like to add that this does not impact hemp farmers that are applying to the permit system and using their USDA growing license. If they have their USDA growing license and they're applying to get a permit from us, that USDA license to grow already serves as the background check. So this is only for those applicants that do not have a USDA growing license. Available for any questions.
Thank you. Next, we have Hawaii Department of Agriculture with comments. Okay, not here. That's all the testimony we have for this measure. Members, any questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll be moving on to HB 2392 relating to insurance. First to testify on this measure, we have Gordon Ito from the DCCA Insurance Division in support.
Good afternoon, Chair Nakashima, Vice Chair Sayama, members of the committee. Gordon Ito testifying on behalf of DCCA Insurance Division. We stand on a written testimony. This is our admin omnibus bill. We request one amendment, which is to delete Section 9 of the bill. At this time, we feel it's not necessary. I'll be glad to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Paul Shimomoto from the Hawaii Captive Insurance Council in support.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. David Beyer, Board Chair of the Hawaii Captive Insurance Council, here for Paul Shimamoto. We stand our written testimony available for any questions.
Thank you. Next, we have Tom Yamachika from the Tax Foundation of Hawaii with comments.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Tom Yamachika from Tax Foundation of Hawaii. Too bad they deleted the section that we wanted to comment on, but that's okay. We'll stand on written commentary and I'd be happy to answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have David Beyer from the Alaska Airlines ASA Assurance in support.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Here for Alaska Airlines and our wholly owned insurance company here in Hawaii, ASA Assurance. We stand our written testimony available for any questions.
Thank you. Are there any other persons here to testify on this measure? Seeing none, members, we do have written testimony and support from Hawaii Captive Insurance Council, Brown and Brown, Hawaii Captive, and two individuals. Oh, sorry, one individual in opposition. Okay, members, any questions? Seeing none, we'll be moving on to HB 2393, relating to Title 24 Hawaii Revised Statutes. First to testify, we have Gordon Ito from DCCA's Insurance Division in support.
Again, good afternoon. Gordon Ito, testifying on behalf of DCC Insurance Division. We stand on a written testimony. I'll be glad to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Dawn Kurisu from HMSA with comments.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Dawn Cariso on behalf of HMSA. We just want to note that we support the intent and offered up a few amendments just to align more closely with USPTSF standards. I probably mixed that up, but thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other persons here to testify on this measure? Seeing none, members, we do have written testimony in support from Hawaii Radiological Society and Hawaii Medical Association. Members, any questions? Okay. Seeing none, we'll be moving on to HB 2394 relating to insurance. First to testify, we have Gordon Ito from the Insurance Division of DCCA in support.
We stand on a written testimony in support. This bill makes amendments to the holding company statute, NAIC holding company model law, which is a requirement. These amendments are required to be adopted by every state to maintain our accredited status. The Part A, which is the law part of the accreditation program. I'll be glad to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other persons here to testify on this measure? Okay, members, we do have written testimony in support from the American Council of Life Insurers, as well as written testimony in opposition from Tradewind Group. Members, any questions? Okay, seeing none. Oh, I'm sorry. Representative Bellotti.
I'm sorry, I missed this, but if we can, go back to House Bill 2393, if we can. I just have questions for the Commissioner.
Let's finish up on 2394. No questions here. Okay, 2393, Representative Bellotti.
Thank you. Commissioner Ito, I'm so sorry.
No problem.
But this just caught my eye when I see cover mandated service for mammography. And I might actually ask HMSA to come up as well. Does this trigger any problems with ACA and essential health benefits as well as?
We don't believe it is. I mean, the amendments we're requesting is just to ensure that the coverage is no less than or favorable, in terms of the deductibles and things. Is that what you're talking about, the mammography part or radiology part?
Yes.
Yeah.
So is it mandating increases in payment that then increase any kind of, it's not an additional mandated service.
Yeah, it's not.
So it doesn't fall into that problem that we have with
Any new mandates in terms of.
creating new mandates.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we feel. It doesn't create that problem.
And this is coming as a recommendation from Uniform Model Act Commission. Well,
For that specific one, I got to follow up on that. Most of the amendments are part of the NAIC model law. The later half of the bill, in terms of the external review, what's happening with that is we had our own external review process. ACA required us to put into a different external review process. What we're trying to do is make that kind of complete it up and make it consistent with the NAIC model law on external review. So that's what we're doing.
Okay, so it's not an additional insurance mandate, so it keeps us out of that problem, and then it's just kind of cleaning up the external review process.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, chairs. Thank you for your indulgence.
Of course. Actually, since we are still on this measure, for HMSA, can you please clarify the amendments that you offered in your written testimony? The way I understand it, it seems to restrict coverage to a certain I guess, policyholders. Is that correct?
No, just alignment, requesting alignment with the United States Preventative Service Task Force recommendations on breast and on mammography screenings.
Does it define, like, so your second amendment that you offered underlines, okay, that for a woman of any age with a history of breast cancer or whose mother or sister has a strong family history of breast cancer, is there a definition for strong family history?
Good question. I can get back to you, but I believe that's the language in
Okay.
USPSTF.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Get back to me on that. All right. No further questions. Thank you. Members, any further questions on this measure, HB 2393? Okay. Seeing none, we'll be taking a short recess for decision making. Recess.
reconvening the Committee on Consumer Protection and Commerce. It's Tuesday, February 13th, 2024, in conference room 329. Convening for decision-making. Members, the first measure on the agenda is House Bill 78 related to transportation. Chair's recommendation is to pass this out as a HT1 with technical amendments needed for clarity, consistency, and style. Members, any questions or comments? Technical amendments. Yeah. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, Vice Chair, as amended.
Voting on HB 1578 HD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair, Vice Chair vote aye. Representative Model? Aye. Representative Belatti?
Aye.
Representative Hashem? Aye. Representative Hussey Burdick? Aye. Representative Gates? Excused. Representative Lowen? Excused. Representative Onishi?
Aye.
Representative Tam? Aye. Representative Purick? Excused. Thank you, Chair. Your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you very much. Members, House Bill 1997, House Draft 1, related to inter-island transportation of hydrogen. Members, the Chair does share concerns regarding this particular measure. However, the Chair is also, since his election, has been a strong proponent of hydrogen fuel cell technology. And so I would like to at least move this bill along, if nothing else, for to make a statement. If that is okay with you, Chair's recommendations to move it out as is. Members, questions or comments? Seeing none, Vice Chair, as is.
Voting on HB 1994 HD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass as is, noting the excused absences of Representative Gates, Lowen, and Purick. Any members voting with reservations? Any members voting? Reservations from Representative Hussey Burdick. Any members voting no? Thank you, Chair. Your recommendation is adopted.
Okay, thank you very much, members. House Bill 2517, House Draft 1, related to renewable energy. Chair's recommendation is to pass this out with technical amendments needed for clarity, consistency, and style. Members, any questions or comments? Seeing none, Vice Chair, House Draft 1, or House Draft 2, actually.
Voting on HB 2517 HD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Noting the excused absences of Representatives Gates, Lowen, and Purick. Any members voting with reservations? Any members voting no? Thank you, Chair. Your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you very much. Members, House Bill 1993, House Draft 1, related to beverage containers. I think we've heard several concerns expressed throughout the hearing regarding this measure. So Chair's recommendation is that we defer this matter. Next, House Bill 1648, House Draft 1, related to school psychology. Okay, related to school psychology, members, there is a Senate bill moving over, so we will defer this matter and wait for the Senate bill to cross. House Bill 2176, House Draft 1, related to artificial intelligence. The I'd like to note in the bill that it can be the DCCA director or their designee in the for the purposes of the bill. Members, any questions or comments? Seeing none, Vice Chair, as amended.
Okay. Chairs are voting on HB 2176 HD1. Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments, knowing the excused absences of Representative Gates, Lowen, and Purick. Any members voting with reservations? Any members voting no? Thank you, Chair. Your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you very much. House Bill 1944, House Draft 1, relate to workers' compensation. Chair's recommendation is to pass this out with technical amendments needed for clarity, consistency, and style. Members, any questions or comments? Seeing none, Vice Chair, as amended.
Voting on HB 1944 HD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments, knowing the excused absences of Representatives Gates, Lowen, and Purick. Any members voting with reservations? Any members voting no? Thank you, Chair. Your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you very much. House Bill 2444, House Draft 1, related to criminal history records check. The Chair's recommendation is that we move this out as is. Members, questions or comments? Seeing none, Vice Chair, unamended.
Voting on HB 2444 HD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass as is, knowing the excused absences of Representatives Gates, Lowen, and Purick. Any members voting with reservations? Any members voting no? Thank you, Chair. Your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you very much. House Bill 2392, related to insurance. Chair has a notation that on page 11, lines 12 to 15, language indicating the amount of the surety bond located on page 11, lines 2 to 4, and therefore need not be repeated on lines 12 to 15. Rather, the language on lines 12 to 15 can be amended as follows. For each licensing renewal, the surety bond shall be filed in accordance with section 431:9J-112 and other. And also, we would like to delete section 9 from the bill and other technical amendments needed for clarity, consistency, and style. Members, any questions or comments? Seeing none, Vice Chair, as amended.
Voting on HB 2392, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Knowing the excused absences of Representative Gates, Lowen, and Purick. Any members voting with reservations? Any members voting no? Thank you, Chair. Your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you very much. House Bill 2393. We have several amendments I'd like to make. On page 9, line 21, replace subsection A with section 432E-34B. Also, the reference in section 432E-35H should be made to section 432E-34J. Finally, on page 10, line 20 to 22, should directly reference section 432E-34B. Other technical amendments for clarity, consistency, and style. Members, any questions or comments? Seeing none, Vice Chair, as amended.
Voting on HB 2393, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments, knowing the excused absences of Representatives Gates, Lowen, and Purick. Any members voting with reservations? Any members voting no? Thank you, Chair. Recommendation is adopted.
Okay, thank you very much. For House Bill 2394, We also have some amendments on page 26, line 20 through to page 27, line 4. Insert, quote, "the commissioner and," end quote, after the words "remains with." On page 27, line 13 through 23, insert, quote, "or a third-party consultant designated by the commissioner," end quote, after the language "insurance commissioners" at 2 spots. And other technical amendments for clarity, consistency, and style. Members, any questions or comments? Seeing none, Vice Chair as amended.
Voting on HB 2394, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments, knowing the excused absences of Representatives Gates, Lowen, and Purick. Any members voting with reservations? Any members voting no? Thank you, Chair. Recommendation is adopted.
Thank you very much.
Oh, wait, hold on.
This is the last bill, 27. Okay, and finally, on decision-making on a bill previously heard on February 6, 2024, House Bill 2742. The AG had several comments. First, to address the AG's concern about subject title use, AG's amendments for Section 3, page 2, lines 17 to 21. Also to address AG's concerns about dictating governor's emergency powers, amend Section 2, page 2, line 14, changing "shall" to "may." Next, to protect against any contract clause claim, add 1 section, amend Section 8, page 13, line 3, delete Section 2, and lastly, ambiguity in the phrase "final eviction moratorium." For this. Okay. So to clear up ambiguity in the phrase "final eviction moratorium," the language is that, so both 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Okay. So number 1 is not intended to be renewed by the governor, semicolon, or number 2, if renewed or extended, is not intended to include any prohibition related to evictions from a residential dwelling unit for failure to pay rent. And then finally, there is a, we will delete proviso on Attorney General's fees, attorney's fees from this measure. Okay, finally, going back to number 5, ambiguity in the phrase "final eviction moratorium," provided that nothing in this section shall prevent the governor from either renewing or issuing a new emergency proclamation that contains a prohibition against eviction from a residential dwelling for failure to pay rent if that intention should change. Sorry about that, folks. But any questions or comments? Seeing none, Vice Chair as amended.
Voting on HB 2742, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Knowing the excused absences of Representatives Gates and Lowen, I believe Representative Pierce is here. Okay, yeah. Any members voting with reservation? Any members voting no? Thank you, Chair. Your recommendation is adopted.
Okay, thank you very much. We are adjourned.